A group of civil society groups under the name of the Procurement Reform Working Group say they believe that the new Public Procurement Bill is flawed and that major changes need to be made. The bill is currently going through Parliament. Its stated aim is to reform some of the ways that government procures goods and services. Kristen Abrahams is a candidate attorney at the Legal Resources Centre, part of this group. Kristen, good afternoon to you. We all know how important procurement is, how it can be abused. What's wrong with these reform proposals?
Hi, Stephen, and good afternoon to everyone watching as well. So I think the group, and I think a lot of civil society organizations in general, welcome the fact that a bill has been put through that really seeks to provide a comprehensive single framework for regulating public procurement in the country. But I think one of the biggest flaws with the bill that we found and we've been talking about is really the fact that it leaves so much open to regulations. So the bill does provide, certain or extensive powers to the Public Procurement Office or to the Minister or to different organs of state to actually make regulations that really elaborate and give body to the rules that are concerned or that are contained in the bill as it stands. We, at the moment, have no idea of what the due date for those regulations are. We have no idea what the content of that would be. And so really, while we welcome, sort of a single framework for regulating public procurement, it's difficult to actually comment on the full content of it because the full content isn't actually available. It's still to be published in the form of regulations. And I think that's one of the flaws with the bill as it stands.
I mean, the thing about procurement is that everybody should know how goods and why certain suppliers were chosen and why others were not. It needs to be properly transparent. From what you suggest, transparency may be an issue.
For sure, and I think beyond just the fact that the bill leaves so much open to regulation, which we would want to have comment on before those regulations are made binding, the other thing is that some of the transparency and accountability mechanisms that it provides just aren't sufficient. So I was just looking before we started chatting at one of the provisions, I think it's section 26 in the bill, but it provides for the Public Procurement Office again to determine by instruction measures for civil society to monitor procurement processes. But then it qualifies this by saying those processes that are high value or complex procurement that entail significant risks of mismanagement and corruption. And so those sort of qualifiers in between really limit the powers that even civil society will have to monitor public procurement properly.
What would a proper public procurement policy, public procurement regulations look like? What would give you comfort that actually this system would be very hard to allow corruption?
I mean, that's quite a difficult question to answer because I don't think that any of us, and especially not I, am claiming to have any of those answers. But I think a couple of things we would welcome a lot more than what we've seen with this bill. The one is that the Public Procurement Office, which is given extensive powers in this bill, is currently situated in the bill as well within National Treasury. And I mean, that raises problems around just proximity to political office bearers, one, but then also the type of oversight and accountability that can be exercised when National Treasury is a procuring institution in and of itself. So there's nothing like an independent public procurement regulator. If we look at the Zondo Commission's reports and we take some of those recommendations, those reports make reference to or recommend an anti-corruption agency, public procurement anti-corruption agency. There's nothing that really does that sort of job. Zondo also recommends the professionalization of public procurement, and that would really ensure that, officials are all trained in the same way, that there is a regulation of public procurement as a profession, but that's not done in the bill either. And then the one other thing I would say is that there needs to be more oversight mechanisms, whether it's written into the bill itself or whether the Public Procurement Office is taken outside of National Treasury, or whether there's something like an independent regulator that then exercises oversight over the PPO.
Kristen Abrahams, thank you. From the Legal Resources Centre, really do appreciate the time.